This is Sideshow Mel, real name Melvin Van Horn. He is a classically trained thespian who once won the Entertainer of the Year award. These days, he serves as Krusty's second banana, having axes, knives, and water thrown at him, or occasionally suffering a monkey attack. It's a tough job. In his spare time, Mel enjoys acting in local theater productions, performing in drag, volunteering at church, and shouting out exposition from a crowd. He may or may not be married to a woman named Barbara, and he may or may not have a son. Let's just say his personal life is complicated. This is the history of Sideshow Mel. Well, we've tackled Krusty the Clown and Sideshow Bob, so let's complete the kids' show triumvirate. Look forward to the Mr. Teeny video in 2023. But seriously, I'm really excited about this one. Sideshow Mel is exactly the kind of character Simpsons Histories was made for. This completely random dude who only seemed to exist to have stuff thrown at him. But as The Simpsons went on and on and on, the writers found more uses for this guy. To the point where I wonder, is Sideshow Mel even a Krusty-centric character anymore? Is this a character who has somehow transcended his original role on the show? Let's go back to the beginning to see how things shook out. Sideshow Mel's first appearance was in Season 2's Itchy and Scratchy and Marge. Krusty asks, "Guess what, Sideshow Mel?" and Mel plays his slide whistle. This character debut is extremely unique for The Simpsons in that it's the direct result of a continuity change, that Sideshow Bob went to prison at the end of Season 1. In this regard, I can't think of another character like Sideshow Mel. It would be like if Bart got a replacement bully in Season 2. I think the initial joke with this guy is how creatively bankrupt and mundane Krusty's second pick was. You lose Sideshow Bob, so you find some guy named Sideshow Mel to replace him. Way to push the envelope, Krusty. At first, Sideshow Mel was a completely silent character, quietly assisting Krusty, honking a horn, or being abused in their act. His first speaking role was in Season 3's Radio Bart, where he operatically sings his line. Later that same year, we get his first non-singing role in Black Widower, where Mel sadly declares that all he can be is himself. Once again, Sideshow Mel is following in Bob's footsteps. If Bob is urbane and Shakespearean, so will his replacement. If Bob was tormented by Krusty, so will Mel. Seasons 3 and 4 did a great job establishing the relationship between Krusty and Mel. You know, we got all those slapstick examples of him on the job, but more importantly, little glimpses of their interpersonal dynamic, how the two of them will gamble together, whether it's sports betting or playing the lotto. In Colonel Homer, Krusty slaps Mel around, telling him to stay away from his sister, then changing his mind and giving his blessing. In I Love Lisa, we get an old clip of Mel completely hammered and calling Krusty a bad word. It's your guess which one. By the way, congrats to Sideshow Mel for being the first Simpsons character to ever be bleeped on the show. Didn't think you had it in you, buddy. These small character moments were important because they culminated in the Season 4 finale, Krusty Gets Cancelled. After they're all fired, Mel goes to work at the Gulpin Blow and refuses to return to Krusty due to his shabby treatment. And of course, so he can work with fan-favorite character Mr. Johansson. Ultimately, he surprises Krusty by reuniting during Send in the Clowns. Essentially, these two are in a weird codependent relationship. After this point, the writers laid off the Krusty and Mel dynamic a little. In Seasons 5 and 6, we'd get one wacky mishap per year. Here's Mel being attacked by a symphony of monkeys. Here's Mel complaining that he and Krusty have never spoken outside of work. Instead, Sideshow Mel started showing off aspects of his personality independent of Krusty. In Bart Gets Famous, he bristles at cheese being put in his sandwich, since he is lactose intolerant. He demands Bart follow him to the bathroom door so he can continue to yell at him. In Secrets of a Successful Marriage, he attends Homer's class, hanging on every gossipy word. However, I would argue that the big turning point occurred in the Season 6 finale, Who Shot Mr. Burns Part 1. At the town hall meeting, Flanders declares, "I'd like to hear from Sideshow Mel." And he obliges, making a dramatic threat with his knife. Poor Mel, bringing a knife to a gunfight. Anyway, this is a significant moment in that it's the birth of his man of the crowd shtick. That this totally minor character, a shirtless guy with a bone through his hair, this is the person we need to hear from for some reason. This angle persisted throughout every era of the show, and for the most part, did not change much. In Season 8, he adds pointing to his repertoire, declaring that jerk-ass Lisa is drowning her baby sister. In Grade School Confidential, he cements his role, telling Superintendent Chalmers that his opinion is as valid as the next person's. During the Scully years, the writers discovered what a good vehicle he is for exposition, or conveying the crowd's attitude about a given topic. See, the thing about Sideshow Mel is that he's got that BLE, Big Lenny energy. Except he comes from the opposite direction. Lenny's so aggressively random and ordinary, he somehow becomes the interesting guy in the crowd. Whereas Sideshow Mel looks like a wacky oddball, but, despite his appearance, somehow serves as the voice of the people and the writers. If Bart's showboating or pranking everyone or wetting his pants, Mel is there to point it out. He'll dramatically punctuate the turning point in the story. Essentially, Sideshow Mel is the premier reaction guy on The Simpsons. He'll cheer the characters when they do something good, he'll jeer them when they mess up. Even Maggie isn't safe from his judgment. You really get the sense that Sideshow Mel just really enjoys the spectacle, the kind of guy who will hang around a courtroom for a small bit of compelling drama. Anyway, going back to the Oakley and Weinstein years, seasons 7 and 8, we continued getting the more independent Sideshow Mel, one whose jokes weren't primarily driven by Krusty. Take Who Shot Mr. Burns Part 2 as an example. Krusty is right there, but it's Sideshow Mel driving the action, reasoning his way through the Smithers alibi and rushing to the police station. We also learn his real name. Later, after Krusty fakes his death, Sideshow Mel must deliver the eulogy. In 22 short films about Springfield, Mel suggests that the bone in his hair was stuck there with chewing gum. This was debunked in later episodes, as we've seen him remove the bone plenty of times, but it's a starting point. Sideshow Mel did fall into his more traditional Krusty role a couple of times, most notably this Double Dare course, but generally we saw him around Springfield more often, destroying burlesque houses and having troubling recurring dreams. The Mike Scully era, seasons 9 through 12, introduced more detail about his personal life as well as his interests. We meet his wife Barbara in Realty Bites while house shopping. Then, the following year, he laments that Barbara will no longer pleasure him with the French arts. In season 12, Sideshow Mel alludes to a troubled childhood, describing his father as a monster. And for some reason, we also get his opinion on various games and sports during the Scully years. He's not into the soccer match and doesn't care much for bowling, but he does travel to the Super Bowl, follows the Springfield Isotopes, runs the Springfield Marathon, and is totally down for some smack talk about Margin Homer's weak tennis skills. In addition, Mel's a member of the NRA, part of the church congregation, and joins the Movementarians, in which he swiftly gains the leader's favor. We didn't see much of Sideshow Mel performing during this era. Most of his workplace stuff revolved around how cruel and verbally abusive Krusty can be, or how completely boring Krusty's stories are. Although when we did see Sideshow Mel on stage, he certainly made an impression. This trend continued on into Al Jean's tenure as showrunner, starting in season 13. These more traditional clowning routines became considerably less relevant as time marched on, just 1 or 2 examples per year. We saw Krusty and Mel kinda sorta perform in their ice show. Mel's hair is lit on fire in season 21, and then gets attacked by the fire extinguisher. In season 28, he's hit by the spit bucket, and in a later episode, announces Krusty's sober contemplation hour. In season 30, he's drowning in a magic act. Honestly, the Krusty-Mel relationship didn't really evolve that much over the years. It kinda peaked at season 4. Just more examples of Krusty disrespecting him, or Mel working in his business ventures. Probably my favorite Krusty-related moment happens in season 26's Clown in the Dumps, when Sideshow Mel and Sideshow Bob finally meet up. Mel is so sarcastic and bitter here, so drunkenly insecure about his predecessor. Sloppy Mel is the best Mel. Unfortunately, he has never had an official Spotlight episode, but Mel did get pretty close in season 19's All About Lisa. He serves as the narrator for the entire affair, setting up the scene for the audience and doing meta jokes with the freeze frame. In this episode, Lisa becomes a successful entertainer on Krusty's show, and Mel gives her some tips along the way. After she wins the Entertainer of the Year award, Mel shows her all the forgotten winners of the past, which includes himself. He won for his performance as Biff in Death of a Salesman, but became addicted to the applause of the audience, eventually taking the role of Sideshow Mel out of desperation. Lisa decides to quit and gets to keep her dignity, unlike Mel. Other than this episode, we don't get a lot of backstory about Mr. Melvin Van Horn. He'll make a passing remark about going to Cornell, but otherwise we know very little of his pre-Sideshow days. That being said, Sideshow Mel does manage to climb out of that kids show bubble. If The Simpsons is doing an episode about putting on a show, this guy is going to be involved. In season 20's anthology episode, Mel lands the lead role in the Scottish play, and is brutally murdered by Homer for it. In season 30, he lands the lead role in Marge's hip-hop musical about Jebediah Springfield. If you ever want to hear Mel rapping, this is your chance. Unfortunately, he abandons the role after being lured away to Llewellyn Sinclair's production of The Tempest. During that same season, we find out that Sideshow Mel enjoys performing in drag shows, taping his bone between his legs and imagining the fiercest version of himself. One major development in the Al Jean seasons was Sideshow Mel's involvement with the First Church of Springfield. Mel is very quietly one of the more devout characters on the show. In season 16, he absolutely loved Flanders' religious film, stating that he is no longer an atheist. Don't know about this detail, as we've seen him in church plenty already, but it does signal his later involvement as a born-again Christian. We see him serving on the church board in countless episodes, giving Lovejoy feedback and praising the parson. In season 26's Sky Police, he is a key member of the church's card-counting group. Sideshow Mel manages to overcome the distracting cocktail waitresses, embrace his secret identity, and enjoy some marshmallow martinis. Other than church stuff, we've gotten a few more of Mel's hobbies over the years. He is a character in the Earthland Realms MMO, he's a foodie, a fan of MMA, teaches slide whistle lessons, and is a member of Mensa and Springfield's Town Council. In the Surfsons, he appears as this magic guy, and in I Columbus as a Roman senator. It doesn't end well for him in either case. You might have noticed this in some of the screenshots, but these later seasons would occasionally portray Sideshow Mel with traditional yellow skin instead of his more pale complexion. I'm not sure what the deal with this is, whether it's just an error or intentional. I always just assume Mel was just always wearing makeup, kinda like Krusty, even if he has to apply it to his whole body. But unlike Krusty, we've never seen Sideshow Mel with bright yellow skin before, even in this old portrait. So maybe this is his natural skin tone. Or maybe there's two Sideshow Mels running around Springfield. Although if you think this is confusing, just you wait till you hear about his love life. So we met Barbara back in season 9, and heard about their relationship issues in season 12. She may or may not be Krusty's sister that Mel was dating back in the day. Anyway, in season 18's Homerazzi, we discover they are in a bitter custody battle, implying that they had a child together. We do see this woman with Mel at the end of the episode, who I'm guessing is Mel's rebound after the separation. In season 21, Krusty confesses that he's been sleeping with Mel's wife for 11 years, and is now dumping her. Ouch. So maybe Mel and Barbara got back together. We do see them at the murder mystery party in season 25 after all. However, it was not meant to be, as Barbara left him at the end of season 28's Christmas episode. Although the following year, Marge asks Mel to say hi to Barbara for her, to which Mel refuses. Then, in season 30, after winning an award, he jokingly tells Barbara she can put the kids to bed now. Except, he adds, Mel is not able to have kids because he took a pie to the groin. Even though Mel was in a custody battle several seasons earlier. And the very next year, in season 31, we meet Sideshow Mel's illegitimate son, who goes to Springfield Elementary. And later that same season, he holds up this kid, asking Pete Holmes' character if he will be his godfather. I'm not sure if these two kids are the same. This whole thing is kind of a mess. In season 33, we have A Serious Flanders, a two-parter that exists outside of normal continuity. In those episodes, Sideshow Mel is married to a different Barbara, this time the owner of an orphanage named Barb Belfry. Their relationship seems to have gone downhill, and they are in an open marriage, in which Barb dates around, and Mel, well, he tries. Mel is more worried about fixing his internet router. Once again, this is a one-off story, but it casts Mel in a sort of Kirk Van Houten situation. In general, it seems his relationship with Barbara is pretty tumultuous and hasn't been satisfying his needs. Especially with this example in season 32, where we discover that Sideshow Mel is keeping an old pizza parlor animatronic as a sex robot. He likes the fox one. Okay, so I make it a point not to kink shame the Simpsons characters in these videos, but Jesus Christ, Mel, a pizza robot? You have been in the kids' entertainment industry for way too long. I swear, I should rename this series Simpsons Kinksteries at this point. It should be pretty clear by now that the writers have kind of thrown everything at the wall when it comes to Sideshow Mel. They stuck to his relationship with Barbara, but their details and situation constantly changed. And if he's going to serve as the voice of the crowd, then Mel has to have extremely varying interests, from posh theater productions to NRA meetings to Super Bowl trips. The thing is, I kind of love that about Sideshow Mel, that he's not a character you can completely nail down. I love that he can play against type, that he's totally ready to bro down with Apu, is excited to watch some MMA. That the writers could do this episode about drag and put Sideshow Mel right there in the dance number, and then turn around and put him in a church storyline, the stuffiest of all storylines. I think that's pretty cool, that this character can so easily fit into many different situations. It makes him kind of three-dimensional, you know? He's posh and refined, but isn't above it all. In addition, I think most can relate to having a job that doesn't take advantage of one's talents, or feeling disrespected by management. But I love that the writers didn't completely chain him to Krusty, like with Smithers and Burns. Anytime he can show off his personality, he's generally great. Really, my only criticism of Sideshow Mel is that his constant exposition shouting and pointing is super repetitive. This guy has like 3 moves. But if you need someone to do this stuff, at least he's gonna give you some energy and enthusiasm. Sideshow Mel is fundamentally a great example of how a simple replacement character can evolve, can find a unique niche in the show. So, to answer the question posed at the beginning, no, I don't think Sideshow Mel is a Krusty-centric character anymore. As always, let me know in the comments what you think of Sideshow Mel. I gotta admit, I was pretty indifferent to him going into this thing, but similar to Barney Gumble, I developed a real appreciation for him while digging through all these appearances. His passion and enthusiasm makes him pretty endearing. Also, let me know who you'd like to see for the next Simpsons Histories. I had to pass on the Sam and Larry nomination last time because I just covered a minor duo, but they're definitely in the mix. There's also support building behind the Sea Captain, Dr. Marvin Monroe, Sanjay, and Kent Brockman. I definitely take your nominations and pitches into consideration for these, so let your voice be heard. As always, thanks for watching.